On September 9th, 2025, the Middle East witnessed a shocking development. In the early hours of the day, Israel launched a targeted airstrike in Doha, the capital of Qatar. According to initial reports, the strike was carried out around 7:30 in the morning local time and quickly became headline news across the globe. The attack was aimed at a location where senior Hamas negotiators were reportedly present. These negotiators were said to be engaged in indirect discussions concerning a possible ceasefire in Gaza. What makes this strike particularly significant is not only its timing, but also the choice of location. Qatar has long been seen as a diplomatic hub, hosting peace talks and acting as a mediator between conflicting parties. For such an event to take place on Qatari soil raised immediate concerns about regional security and the future of negotiations. Reports indicated that at least 6 individuals lost their lives in the attack. Among them was the son of a senior Hamas leader and a Qatari security officer. Israel later confirmed that the operation had been carefully planned, describing it as an operational opportunity. Meanwhile, Hamas sources quickly responded, stating that their top leadership had survived the strike. Within minutes of the incident, international media outlets began covering the story. News tickers described the attack as unprecedented, marking the first time Israel had directly carried out a military operation inside Qatar. Analysts noted that the strike did not just target individuals, but also had a symbolic meaning. It struck at the heart of an active negotiation process, one that was already fragile. As images of smoke rising over parts of Doha circulated online, global attention turned to the potential consequences. Would this derail the ongoing ceasefire talks? Would it push the region into further instability? And how would the world respond to such a bold move? These were the questions dominating headlines as the story unfolded. This is where our report begins, by breaking down the facts of what happened, the timeline of the strike, and the immediate damage it caused. In the following sections, we'll look deeper into the details of the attack, the reactions it triggered, and the wider implications for the Middle East. Following the September 9th strike in Doha, more details began to emerge about the events of that morning. According to eyewitness accounts and official statements, the attack occurred just after 7:30 a.m. local time in a central area of the Qatari capital. The strike appeared highly targeted, aimed specifically at a building where Hamas negotiators were reported to be holding internal discussions connected to ceasefire talks over Gaza. In the immediate aftermath, local authorities confirmed that at least 6 individuals were killed. Among the dead was a Qatari security officer who had been stationed near the compound and the son of a senior Hamas leader. While the identities of all the victims were not officially disclosed, it was widely reported that several individuals inside the building sustained fatal injuries. Importantly, Hamas officials later clarified that their senior leadership had survived, though the loss of close relatives and associates marked a serious blow. The strike left visible damage in the targeted area, shattered windows, smoke rising, and emergency vehicles rushing to the site. Qatari emergency services quickly cordoned off the zone, evacuating nearby residents and beginning a search and rescue operation. Authorities later described the strike as a direct violation of Qatar's sovereignty, emphasizing that their capital had never before been the site of such an attack. From Israel's perspective, military officials described the action as part of their ongoing campaign against Hamas leadership. They referred to it as an operational opportunity, implying that the strike was carefully timed and based on specific intelligence. However, this justification immediately sparked debate. Critics questioned whether striking in Doha, far from the battlefield of Gaza, would escalate tensions even further. The symbolic impact was also significant. Doha has long served as a center for diplomacy, hosting international negotiations and mediations involving multiple regional actors. By targeting Hamas negotiators in Qatar, Israel effectively brought the conflict into a country that had played the role of mediator rather than battlefield participant. Analysts warned that this could deter future peace efforts and discourage neutral nations from offering their soil as safe ground for talks. Within hours of the strike, footage of smoke in Doha circulated across international media and social networks. While no graphic images were released, the scenes of emergency vehicles and police securing the site underscored the seriousness of the event. For ordinary residents in Doha, the strike was an unsettling reminder that the ongoing war had suddenly expanded beyond its usual borders. This combination of casualties, political symbolism, and diplomatic consequences set the stage for a wave of international reactions, from condemnation by regional powers to urgent discussions at the United Nations. These responses will be the focus of the next section. As news of the September 9th airstrike spread, the international response was swift and intense. Qatar condemned the attack in the strongest terms, calling it a violation of its sovereignty and a direct assault on its role as a mediator. Officials in Doha stressed that their capital had never been targeted in this way before, and they warned that such actions could destabilize not only their own security, but also the wider region. The global community quickly weighed in. Russia described the strike as a gross violation of international law and the United Nations Charter, demanding an emergency discussion at the UN Security Council. Turkey accused Israel of adopting what it called a state terrorism as a policy. The Arab League issued a joint statement of condemnation, while the United Arab Emirates and several other Gulf countries voiced concern that the attack could undermine diplomatic negotiations. Western governments, including the United Kingdom, expressed alarm, urging restraint and renewed commitment to dialogue. The United States, which has played a central role in attempting to broker a ceasefire in Gaza, found itself in a particularly difficult position. While Washington has historically supported Israel, officials were forced to navigate between backing a key ally and responding to Qatar's anger, especially since Doha has long been a host for U.S. diplomatic and military operations. Analysts suggested that the strike could complicate Washington's efforts to maintain credibility as a mediator in the ongoing conflict. Beyond governments, the strike also resonated among ordinary citizens across the Middle East. Protests were reported in several cities, with demonstrators voicing outrage over the attack and demanding stronger action from their leaders. On social media, the event quickly became a trending topic, sparking debates about the future of ceasefire talks and the risks of expanding the conflict beyond Gaza. In practical terms, the attack raised new questions about the future of negotiations. Would Hamas be willing to continue talks in Qatar after such an incident? Could Doha still serve as a neutral host for peace discussions? And more broadly, would countries across the region reconsider their willingness to provide safe ground for diplomatic efforts? In summary, the airstrike in Doha represented more than just a military operation. It was a moment that shook diplomatic norms, tested alliances, and reminded the world of how fragile the path to peace can be. While Israel framed the operation as a necessary step against Hamas leadership, much of the international community saw it as a dangerous escalation. The incident left behind not only physical damage, but also deep political scars, the impact of which will likely shape Middle Eastern diplomacy for months, if not years, to come. This was Conflict Zone, reporting the facts, the context, and the consequences of one of the most significant moments in the region's ongoing conflict. Stay informed, stay aware, and don't forget to subscribe for more neutral and educational coverage of world events.